Hi there, Joe Omani here, Professor of Consulting at Cardiff University. It's the first day of the school holidays, so if you hear screaming behind me, you'll know why. And yes, I am a terrible father, but I need a break sometimes. Anyway, I have been doing research on the impact of technology on consulting firms, and I can talk about this for days, but I wanted to talk briefly about the four types. I'm categorizing four types of products and services that consultancies have been using, and give you a brief overview. So if you imagine an X and Y axis, axes, where one of them is the use of technology, and one of them is the value to the consultancy, and you imagine a line going up equally in between them, then you can plot these four things along them. So starting off is sort of personalized services, which many of you will be providing. I'm guessing about 50% of all consulting delivery, and probably more, is quite personalized services. So specific services that solve a unique or relatively unique problem for the client. And we can talk about the details of that, but I'm simplifying to make my point. You're all going to be familiar with that. The upside of it is very high value for the client, very often very high fees, but not always. So you need to keep an eye on what you're being paid for this type of work. The downside for the consultancy is that it's a lot of work, that it requires high skills or at least high experience from the consultants themselves, and it can be high margin, but you are in effect tying your delivery to your people's time. So there is, exponential or standardized growth in cost for every time you deliver. The next stage where it starts to be more interesting is productized services, and these are more standardized services. And the wonderful thing about standardized services is that for the consultancy, it tends to be lower cost delivery, because you don't need very experienced or very bright people to deliver standardized services. You can get, relatively bright, reasonably experienced graduate on and train them up. The other good thing is that it's very often fixed price, and clients prefer fixed pricing over any other form of pricing. Or it can be fixed price. The benefit of having fixed price with these types of services is that any improvement in the operational costs increases the profit that you get. For the client as well, they tend to know what they're getting. Obviously, the implementation of standardized processes doesn't guarantee a result. But in terms of the method, fairly standardized method, and they know what they're buying. So there's benefits to that. The next stage is products. And the difference between products and services, as I see them, is that services are more ambiguous, intangible, and the outcome is intangible. The value is intangible. Whereas with a product, it tends to be software or something like that. It's more standardized, it's more tangible, and the value is what you're getting. So, Microsoft Word would be a good example of a product. You know what you're getting, and the value is tangible, and it's not emergent. With services, value is emergent. So it's usually the interaction of different people and different teams and different organizations. So even with standardized, even with productized services, which we talked about a second ago, you're getting more of an emergent outcome. There's no guarantees there about what the value is going to be, because it's dependent on leadership, change management, and all the things that we know very well. And there's lots of benefits now, because if you're offering products, if you're offering off the shelf products, which could be software, but it could be a standard research report, it could be a conference, a standardized conference, it could be intellectual property of any description. But of course, the wonderful thing here is that you tend to be breaking the link between the number of people that you're putting into an organization and the payment that you're getting. So in effect, this starts to become more passive revenue, where you can, in effect, replicate. If you've got a research report that's fantastic, or you've got a conference that's fantastic, it doesn't really matter the number of people that buy it. There's very little increase in your cost. The same is true of software. The final step, and this is sort of the holy grail in terms of revenue, is sort of products as a service. And products as a service are where you're offering products on an ongoing annualized basis. And that's the service that you're providing. Now, the most obvious of these is software as a service, where you're providing the software and you're getting annualized revenue or some form of subscription. But you can also do with this, you can do this access to data. You could have access to a community. You could have, I don't know, you can have anything as a service. I bumped into a company the other day and they're offering business as a service. So in effect, if you're a consultancy, they provide all of the sales, the PSA systems, the billing systems, the advertising systems and everything. And in effect, you just deliver. And so that's, in effect, that's consultancy as a service. They're providing your business. But there's also, data as a service, there's learning as a service, there's lots of different types of service. But the key thing is that you're offering something that is a product, but you're offering it on a recurring revenue-based form of billing. Now, what you get as you go up this value chain in terms of the type of firm you've got, you're getting a different multiple. So if you're offering a personalized service, firstly, it's harder for you to sell a firm that does personalized services because buyers are worried that the value is in the people. Once you get to more standard methods, they think, well, the asset is in the service itself, so they're happier with that. So you get a higher multiple. But then when you move to products, and then you move to products as a service, as soon as you start getting annualized recurring revenue on the basis of your products, you can increase the multiple you get on EBITDA from sort of 7 or 8, which a typical consultancy would get, up to sort of 18 to 20 that a typical software firm would get. Now, of course, I'm not saying this is for everyone. I'm not saying it suits the type of consultancy you do. Some people would say, well, I don't enjoy, I want to run I love doing consultancy. I love doing personalized consultancy work. That's fantastic. Great. I'm not interested in this video as to whether it's suitable for your specific firm or whether it's something you would enjoy, but I am showing you that there's much more value associated with these. So I've talked about four steps: personalized services, which a lot of consultancies do, standardized or productized services, products, and then products as a service. So there are 4 things, and as you move up there, it tends to be more value to the consultancy, but also greater use of technology. Again, quite a simplification. I can talk about this in more detail. If you're interested, give me a shout, or visit joeomani.com, where you can find a lot of my other materials. Okay, back to the kids. Take care. Bye-bye.